So in this video we will try to understand another important content of the chapter from air, that is weather and climate. So before going to explain you weather, climate, its element and how it's affect the atmosphere or the entire earth, let us try to see what is weather and how this weather is different from climate. You might have seen when people are talking with each other, then they often say that today's climate is not good. Right? You might have heard such words. Today's climate is not good. But how far it is correct to say that today's climate is not good? Literally, it may be accepted when people say that this is a very hot climate today. But do you know, if you understand exactly the difference between weather and the climate, then you will realize it is not correct to say that today's climate is hot or cold. Why? Let us see. And let us try to understand what is climate and how it is different from weather. Let us take first, that is weather. What is weather? Weather is a day-to-day happening of an environment in the atmosphere. Okay? That is called a weather. Let me make my point. You might have experienced a day with a different kind of atmospheric conditions. Now what is atmospheric condition? The atmospheric condition means is happening of certain things or anything in the atmosphere for any point of time. Okay? Just as suppose one day you just wake up from your bed and you have found it was sunny day. Okay? There was a sunshine. And suddenly when you went out, you find that a strong wind started to blow. Now see, what is this? These are the atmospheric conditions. And after some time you find that it is sudden rain started to occur. There was a heavy rainfall. Now see, this is what? The atmospheric conditions. And again you find there is a sunshine. It means in the same day, till morning to evening, in the different point of time, you experience different kind of atmospheric conditions. So that day-to-day happening of a small area for a short period of time when calculated, that is called as what? Weather. Understand what is weather? Weather is an atmospheric conditions of a small area which is calculated for a short period of time. That is weather. Okay. Now what is climate? Now climate is a weathering conditions of a large area for a longer period of time. When taking the large area, the weather condition is calculated for the long period of time, that is 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, that is called as what? The climate. It is not easy to calculate the climate. To get the climate of any area, you need the weathering conditions or weathering phenomena of that area for a long period of time. Correct? So in that way we can say that weather and the climate is very different. When we say that today's climate is not good, it is incorrect use of the term of geography. We can say that the weather is not good, or we can say that the atmospheric conditions keep on changing rather than using the word climate. Why? The climate is a sum total of a weathering conditions of a large area calculated for a long period of time, that is not less than 10, 20, 30 years. That is climate. Okay. Now this is how we try to understand the difference between weather and the climate. Then how calculated. So to calculate the weather or to calculate the climate, we have some elements. These elements are temperature, pressure, wind, rainfall, ocean currents, latitude, altitude. No, these are the different elements which help to calculate the weather conditions of certain places. Do you know, to calculate the climate also we use the same elements. These elements are same. Whatever the elements we are using to calculate the atmospheric condition of an area, same elements are used to calculate the climatic conditions. In this chapter, we will try to understand, or in this video we will try to understand how these temperature, pressure, wind, they play important role as an element to affect the weather or the climate. Do you know, apart from these three, no, that is temperature, pressure and wind, these are also some of the most important element to calculate the weatheric or the climatic conditions of an area. But in this class or in this chapter, the chapter has explained only about these 3 points. These are temperature, pressure and the wind. So we will try to understand these 3 elements only, because rest of the elements, when you go to your higher classes like class 9, when you study about the climate, rest of the element will be explained to you in that particular class. Let us see here about these 3 elements. Then let us take the first important element, that is what? The temperature. To make you explain about this, no, first important element, I have drawn one rough sketch here about which I will explain you. But before going to explain you about this element, let me tell you what is temperature. Temperature is what? It is all about the amount of heat that the earth receives from the sun. Okay, the amount of heat which earth receives from the sun, that is temperature. It means temperature is all about the insolations, or the amount of insolation means the amount of heat that earth receives from the sun. And if you see this picture very carefully, then you will come to know some of the surprising facts. Let us take this as an arc. Just roughly I have drawn to make my point, and take this as an equator. That is also what? Topic of Cancer and the Capricorn. No, this is what? The poles, north poles or the south pole. And if you see the sun rays, how it's fall on the earth, then you find that on this equatorial region, the sun rays are very direct, very vertical, and if you see the distance in this particular place, that is in the equatorial region, then you will come to know that distance between the equatorial region and the sun compared to the polar region is less. 1 point. Second point, sun rays are vertical over this area, that's why amount of insolation is more over the equatorial regions, that's why this part of the earth is the hottest part on the planet or the earth. Clear? Sun rays are vertical, whereas here sun rays are slanty. Let us understand in this way. You see, when you are just walking under the sunlight, when it is exact noon, when sun rays are just very vertical on you, you feel more hot. When it is evening, when sun rays just hit you from your backside, the sun rays are slanty. The amount of insolation means amount of heat. The amount of insolation you feel less. In the same way, all those places where sun rays are direct, okay, and where sun rays are slanty, the amount of insolation will be different. In this way, the first important element, that is temperature, plays very important role to affect the weather or climate of any places. Another is pressure. Okay, what is pressure? Let us understand. So pressure is one of the most important element of the weather. okay, or the climatic conditions. Do you know what is wind? As we have discussed in the previous video, the horizontal movement of the air or the vertical movement of the air, that is called as a wind. But have you ever thought what makes wind move? The wind which moves, which blows from one place to another place, what makes it move? Why it don't get stagnant? There are so many geographical factors or geographical facts which makes the wind moves. The first one is called what? The spinning of the earth. You might be knowing, or you know, I am damn sure, that when earth spins, it produces one kind of force. That force is called as what? Calories force. What it is? Calories force. So movement of this earth or spinning of the earth deflected the wind which is present near to it. Let me give you a demo. When I flap my hand just like that, what I experience? I experience a wind stuck my cheeks. When I flap my hand, what I experience? I experience a wind just touches my cheeks. Okay, why it is? Because the wind which is present nearby this area, when I flap my hand, it generates or produce some amount of energy, and that energy makes the wind move from that place to another place. In the same way, spinning of the earth also produces one kind of force, and that force is called as the calories force in geography, that makes a movement of the wind from one place to another place. Another factor which makes the movement of the wind from one place to another place is what? The air pressure. Do you know, on the different component of the earth, basically earth has two components, that is land and water. These two different components of the earth experience different kind of pressure conditions, and sometimes what happened, high pressure belt forms on the land masses, and because of which what happened, the air or the wind started to blow from land to sea. Sometimes these pressure belts are shift and high pressure belts are formed over the water bodies. Now air started to move from water to seas. So the movement of the wind is basically depend on the air pressure. It means when the different component of the earth, that is on the earth and the water bodies, when these pressure belts are formed, wind started to move. Often you might have experienced during winter, the high pressure belt is formed over the water bodies, and ultimately what happened, wind started to move from sea to land, and it's quite reversal in during summer. So this is another important element of which regulate the climate and the weather, that is what? The pressure. So finally, about the wind, which is the third element which is discussed in the chapter, I will explain you, and with that I will conclude the chapter in the next video. Till then, watch this video, read your text and try to solve out the textual questions. Thank you.